Hey everyone, welcome to lesson 2. This is going to be the second in a series of messages on racism. Um, while we started off, if you watched the last one from last week, it's going to be important if you're just tuning in that you actually follow them per number as far as for the lesson, because that's going to help you have a frame of reference to digest the information that Spirit is giving us. So if you haven't seen one yet, go back and see that video and then join us here for 2. If you did watch it last week, then this is going to be a continuation. We started off with the idea of racism, and Spirit went ahead and informed us that it's not really about racism. Our issue is separation. Now they're going to go through and touch on that and continue on with the lesson, and then we'll do number 3 the following week. So thank you for joining, and I hope you enjoy. Greetings, children of God. So we continue the lesson. We spoke on racism, which is a current hot topic for your planet right now. We brought to your attention that this idea of racism is actually the stone that is thrown into your clarity of mind. The actual rock and the hand that throws it is the idea of separation. We also touched on the fact that when you expand outside of this body and leave this vehicle behind, you do not take your color with you. You are not your vehicle. What you are is much, much more. The issue we brought up with this understanding that I am this color and living life perception-wise through that perspective is that depending upon your path and what is happening, whether it brings anger, whether it brings shame, whether it brings guilt, whether it brings fear, whatever it is the features of that particular race holds, during that time period, you do carry those emotional contents and mental constructs with you. The issue then becomes, as a spirit coming back into a body and choosing, you have many options. Some races are better at music than others. They're more musically inclined. Others are more thought-forming and better suited to solve mental issues and mental problems in the world using their intellect. Other people are more receptive emotionally to what is happening around them. Each has their own aspects, very much like when you go shopping for a vehicle. All their features may be similar, but when you start spending more money, there are features that you get that you don't get into other models. In fact, that is those benefits why most people choose them repetitively. The issue that we want to bring to your mind is that as a spirit coming in, if you are carrying the emotional baggage gained from being a particular color or race, and then at that point identify yourself with that pain and constructs of thought, when you come back, you are most likely, instead of all the options that are on the show floor to choose from to express yourself, to choose what you are familiar with, even though you said you hated it while you were in it. You will still come back and choose that vehicle. The problem that this creates is looking forward into future lives. You have a repetitive choice of the same choice because you don't know how to choose any different, because you become convinced you are nothing else but that choice. You then lose the opportunity to express yourself and try all of the vehicles that are available. You become narrowly focused on a particular form and a particular way. Here's how powerful this is. We have mentioned that Racism goes on a cycle. Uprising, peace, ignorance. Ignorance being noticing that there are new leaves from the weeds coming up. Denial. Oh, well, we don't have to worry about that because the flowers are taller than the weeds. And this cycle continues until it gets back to the point of uprising to lead to peace. And this cycle continues throughout your history over and over again. It is not just a particular race issue. It happens on several levels across the planet. The issue that we want to bring to your mind is that when you are focused your identity on this particular race, with this particular mindset, with this particular mental anguish, with this particular thoughts to back it up, so that you have a framework to exist through, and you spend all your attention on your definition as this limited form, you will actually skip the other cycles and come back when it's at its worst. Because that is what you identify with. This is free will in action. What we want to bring to your attention to expand on that teaching this week is to break the cycle. When you were created by God, it was not with a color or a limitation associated with that color in mind. Now, let us look at the world stage of interacting with each other within this limitation. There are times when people will go act a certain way, bring up certain issues, and stay stuck within that dance. They will stay focused on that issue, and they will not break. They continue that cycle and back and forth. So we have God's children focusing through different vehicles, which they leave when they pass. They don't take that with them. And they have a construct that they interact with each other. And the issue becomes that in order to free themselves from this pain, they require someone else to act a certain way. Perhaps that idea seems offensive. Let us get real with it. So we have one race that demands, in order for us to be free, you must stop this treatment, which is important, very valid. There's no reason for the treatment to be occurring. There is no reason for God's children to kill either one. Let us get that clear. But back to point, comma, then comes the list. I need you to see me a certain way. I need you to talk to me a certain way. I need you to treat me a certain way. And the lists come out. Many of the lists are correct in form that what other races is acting towards them is inappropriate and based on small-minded thinking. That's not the issue. The issue comes into play is that whatever race it is that we are focusing on requires the other one to follow the list so they can claim that they are healed. This breaks free will. And it also creates a problem. The other race produces their list. So let's play an example that many will find distasteful, but accurate. On the one hand, we have the black race. On the other hand, we have the white race. And now they exchange lists. I need you to be able to see me as a worthy person. I need you to not be violent. I need you to stop seeing me as worthless. I need you to stop killing me. I need you to give me the same financial opportunities that you have. I need you to stop interfering when I try to obtain them. I need you to live your life and let me live mine. Did I capture the anger correctly? We are hoping we did. Now, the white race. As disgusting as it sounds, I need you to stop being lazy and get a job and produce. I need you to stop making me feel guilty that I have some sort of privilege that you do not. I need you to stop walking around society looking like you don't belong. I need you to speak English. I need you to speak in correct sentences so I can relate to you. That is enough of that. That is disgusting enough on both sides as far as going ahead and watching the list. Because behind the list is anger. Behind the list is hatred for each other. It does not build a bridge. It does not connect. And it leaves both sides trapped in their perceived images. One side wants the other one to perceive them differently. Though, let's face facts right now, what they really want more than anything is to stop being killed for simply being black. Again, keeping it real. But once we get past that issue and we get into the more subtler things, it becomes a whole list of how do you expect as children for this to move forward in 10 years' time and say, what do you need from each other? What do you demand? What is required? And then the racism continues. Because each list is built on a preset image of the other person, of what they must be, because they are the reasons that we have this problem. Both sides see it this way. Both sides are convinced that is the way that it works. And so these lists trap each other. And when they combined, it is nothing more than more racism. It is another stone thrown into the clarities of your mind. The issue behind it is still separation. And the principle that you must change in order for things to be okay. The reason why we bring this up as a non-working solution is because it breaks your people's free will. Will the black community accept that the white community thinks they are not working? That they are not doing enough? That they need to be more productive in order to go ahead and have the white people agree to their terms that they demanded? Will the black community agree with the other? Will the white community agree that they have white privilege and actively seek to destroy this community? Not because it's a realization, but because it is a business contract you are trying to nail out. And in this world, people would rather be in denial the rest of their lives than admit in public that they are wrong. Why is that? Why in this world will no one admit that they are wrong? Why is it so difficult to come out in public and admit that you're wrong? Perhaps because when someone does, you crucify them. That perhaps might have something to do with it. That when someone admits they're wrong, it signals to society that they are now open to have all of your hate, all of your anger, and all of your resentment that you've been holding on to and throw it at them. To try to hurt them with it. Because if they admit that they are wrong, then someone finally deserves it. Don't believe us? Check your social records. Look at what happens when someone admits through integrity that they did something wrong. Are they rewarded? Check the comments. Is there any compassion or love present for them? The answer is no. So again, separation. There is all of this anger, and no one knows what to do with it. No one knows how to channel it. But you do know how to make it a weapon and hurt each other with it. And this again brings us back to separation. In order to deal with the hatred and anger on the level that is within this planet, the first thing to accept is not what you created. Allow us to explain. This complicated construct that you call life, where it continually clashes. Someone must lose. Someone must be attacked. Someone must admit that they're less than the other. It creates and generates fear. And so instead, you attack each other because there's not enough. Only someone could have it. Only someone could be the most painful. Only someone could be the greatest victim. Only someone could be the greatest abuser. Which would you prefer? And each picks up their weapons of choice. Each masterfully go after each other for it. And then they come together at some point in time and they pray. Listen to the irony of this. They pray. And they say, God, stop this. God, heal this. They call out to what created and say, please help. Then there's the part of humanity that says, there is no God. Because if there was a God, how could it let this happen? How could this be? And we will respond back, do you not understand what free will is? If God was to come in and take charge and whip you into shape and cast out judgment all over the place, then would it not be breaking its agreement of free will? You have free will, we have free will. We may create our lives, our existence, our definition of our minds as we see fit. There are no limitations. You are free to do with it as you will. You can make heaven or you can make hell. Currently, the children of humanity is doing quite well with hell. You are making it hell on earth for yourselves. And it is not necessary. Now here's the irony we brought up. When it comes down to the children of God, then praying to God to say, help us with this, comma, under these conditions, always conditions. Never, I will follow. I will use my free will to follow. Show me what to do and what to say. No. The children of humanity want God to fix it, and let me tell you how. This person's going to stop doing this. This person's going to start treating me this way here. This job is going to raise my salary. This person here is going to get me better housing. This person here is going to get a job. This person here is going to do this. All of these conditions. The point that we want to bring to the children of humanity is that you've created this complicated problem that will never fit together. And your history shows this. It is a cycle of destruction that repeats. And the biggest pain with it is that there are so many other choices of expression that God has given the children of humanity, and you are stuck expressing the most painful. You are stuck expressing the ones that hurt each other the most. And of all the glory and gifts that God has given you, you choose this over and over again. Why? Out of all the things you could think you are as a reflection of that light in the universe, this is what you're proud of? This is the best that you can manifest? And we will tell you no. You are so much more. You are so much more capable. But first, you have to break that as your identity. And that's where the problem comes into play. Because this problem is brought before God. And God writes books through his messengers. God sends messengers like us that could speak directly. God sends someone that you bump into in the grocery store. And it may only be a sentence, but for that moment it lights up your heart. There are so many ways that God reaches out. And then the information is received and then rationalized. That's nice, but unrealistic. We live in the real world. Or did I mistake that expression? We think we got that right. We live in the real world. And you focus back on the problem. You want your creation fixed, but you don't want to realize there is no fixing it because that is the way that you created it. It is not by God's laws. It does not follow the flow of God's energy, which means for your entire time you spend your free will within that stuck pattern, it means you are disconnected from your source. More than your source, you're disconnected from the gift God created you as. And that sounds like a flowery term. Let us be clearer. When you were created beautiful, perfect, within God's mind. You exist within God's mind. So it is not possible to say there is a shadow within God's mind. It is God's mind, and God's mind is love. And that is where you exist. But that is not what you perceive now. But we would bring to your attention and ask you one question. What is it within this world you have your attention on? What is it that consumes you to the point that you shake with anger? You shake with rage. If you could spit your heart out as a cannon at the one you hated, to knock them down, to bring victory to your people, you would. This is an expression our son, our channel, has used when he has been so angry. And it is a good one, well written. So, what has your attention? This is an important question to observe. What are you paying attention to this world? More important, what are you paying attention to as your definition of who and what you are? One final question. What does that have to do with what God created? Anything? Anything at all? If it does not have to do with what God created, then it does not have to do with you. Because that is not what God created. That's what we want to bring to your mind, the concept. It is not time to realize and grasp it yet, but we want to bring to your mind the concept that for all your problems, whatever they may be, that has your attention, they have nothing to do with what God created. And if it has nothing to do with what God created, then it has nothing to do with you as God created, which means your attention is not on yourself. You only believe that it is. But whatever your anger, whatever your hatred, whatever your angst, however your fear moves you, because all of that is fear. All of that is a generation of what you call the ego. See a candle flame. See it burn brightly. There you are within God's mind. Within all those other candle flames. Each of you, your own light. And one day, you stretch your perception for experience. And you create a point where you can experience in perception outside the light. It doesn't stop the light. It doesn't negate the light. The light is still the truth. All you did was extend your perceptions and attention to create a point that you can focus through to see something else besides what you know. And there you are, this point. But then the unexpected happened. The light was no longer flowing through you in your perceptions or your attention. And so, looking forward, the perception saw shadows. The perception saw lies. And the perception became afraid. And once it was afraid, its attention was not on the candle flame. Its attention went to the shadows. And that has been where you've been stuck ever since. Convinced the shadows are alive. Convinced it's coming to get you. Convinced you can't take your attention off it for a moment. Now transfer this into your world and daily life and look clearly at your enemies. Those that you would call your enemies. And in this, be brave. In this, stop denying. When you look at all the different races and the way that you treat each other, of less than or greater than, and it's important to say, it's not just within the races. Let's talk about the workplace. How the management is better than the workers. How some workers are better than others. How the corporate is better than the managers. You have structured this idea of separation throughout your entire society. It poisons everything and keeps you separate. So be honest, because when you look at it truly, and you are within this world and not conscious, everything is your enemy. It may be your neighbor. It may be the person down the street. Surely it is the government, but maybe it's a local one. Maybe it's the person gossiping about you. Always is there a focus of someone out to get you. And always are you aware and mindful to keep your attention upon them. You cannot break focus. Because when you do, they're going to get you. In clinical terms, would this not be labeled paranoia? But in reality, this is what you call life. This is the mindset you live within. Now, we will end this session here. We feel it has been intense enough. Consider the things we have said. And in the following lesson, we're going to expand on these teachings yet again to bring in resolutions and deeper understanding. And our peace to you. That was intense. Wow. Thank you for joining. As usual, you are open to feedback. Always welcome. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.